Right, so welcome back to another video on this channel. Javi Gracia has just been appointed as the new Leeds United manager on a deal until the end of the season. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you my opinions on, first of all, whether I think it is a good appointment or a bad appointment. Second of all, going to be going through and, giving you a little bit of a display on how I think he'll set up with this Leeds team. And third of all, going to be answering, of course, the question of all questions: will Leeds United be able to survive relegation under Javi Gracia's tenure until the end of the season? So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So I've seen a lot of Leeds fans on social media who are, kind of disappointed, uninspired, pessimistic about this one overall, and to be fair, I do kind of understand, because Javi Gracia is a name that's kind of just been dispelled from our minds for, the last 3 or 4 years, ever since he was sacked by Watford in 2019. He's since been at Valencia, he's since been at Al Sadd, and of course is now back in the Premier League with Leeds. But to be fair, the more I've looked into it, I've done a little bit of research in terms of, how Javi Gracia preferably likes his teams to set up, and I do think it actually very much suits the personnel that Leeds have, in the sense that he likes to set up preferably with a 4-4-2 formation. That's mainly what he, utilised during his time at Watford. He likes his fullbacks to offer the main, width in the team going forward, in terms of, we saw that with Daryl Janmaat and Jose Holebas as his fullbacks during his time at Watford, and that's mainly because he likes his wide players, Will Hughes and Roberto Pereira, as to use as Watford examples, to, drift inside and operate in central positions, essentially, because then he likes to have 2 sixes in that midfield to kind of, as I said, offer stability to that midfield defensively. We saw that with Abdoulaye Doucouré and Etienne Capoue in that Watford team, again, to name you an example. And then he likes to have a big target man up front, preferably next to someone with a little bit of pace. We saw that with Troy Deeney and Andre Gray, who offered that little bit of, spite and pace beside Troy Deeney. So the way I think that he will set up this Leeds team, I think will actually probably suit the profile of players that Leeds have within their squad, to be fair. Because Leeds do have a squad with a lot of energy in midfield. I mean, players like Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Mark Roca to an extent. He likes to have pace in the wings, which Leeds obviously have in abundance with Wilfried Gnonto, Jack Harrison, Crescencio Somerville, Luis Anistera as well. And obviously then he has that option to play a big man up front as well with Jorginho Rutter, the new 30 million signing, who hasn't really been, utilised properly since he's joined Leeds in January. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting one. And in terms of how I think he'll actually set up this Leeds team formation-wise and personnel-wise, here's what I think it will be, as you can see on your screen. So I think he'll go with Ilan Meslier in goal, pretty standard. He's the #1 goalkeeper now. I think in terms of the fullbacks, as I said, he likes them to be able to bomb forward and offer the width in the team. So I think Junior Firpo will probably be preferred to Pascal Struijk in that sense, because I think he's probably more comfortable going forward and offering width and overlapping. I think you can, flip a coin between Luke Ayling and Rasmus Christensen, but purely because Luke Ayling is, he knows this Leeds team, and Christensen's kind of not really fit into the team as well as people thought he was going to. I think he'll probably go Luke Ayling, especially for the start anyway. I think he'll go with Max Vober, obviously, who, is a mainstay now in this Leeds team ever since he signed in January. I think he'll go Liam Cooper beside him, because there's not really necessity for the centre-backs to be ultra brilliant on the ball, and I think Liam Cooper will offer that, leadership that Leeds maybe will lack on the pitch without him. In the midfield, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think he'll go with Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie, who will offer you that energy, that bite, that tenacity in midfield that, of course, will offer Leeds' midfield stability for when the wide players do want to operate in central positions. And here's where it gets interesting, because it's whether he plays Rutter and Bamford up front together. As you can see in this graphic, I've got that at this moment in time, and maybe he plays Jack Harrison off the left or Jack Harrison off the right and plays Willie Gnonto on the other side. But what I personally think that I'd be interested to see if he does, because obviously Will Hughes played at that right wing position for Watford on paper and was able to drift inside, while, Roberto Pereira came in and operated in central positions and offered a little bit of width. I think he might try and replicate that with this Leeds team and play Brendan Aronson on one side, maybe off the right hand side, where he cuts into the middle to make it a midfield 3, and then give Jack Harrison a bit of space on the left to, drift wide but also operate attacking wise in, central spaces. And then because Patrick Bamford obviously doesn't have a lot of pace about him, I think he could maybe, shift Wilfried Gnonto up front alongside Rutter and almost act as that big man, small man front to attack. So I think it could be a really interesting one in terms of how Leeds set up, given the personnel that they do have. But that's the main team that I think is most likely to start this weekend in that crucial 6-pointer at the bottom of the table against Southampton at the weekend. So yeah, as we've established, I think it kind of, suits Leeds' personnel on paper, Javi Gracia's style of play. And I think at this stage it probably comes down to whether he can, iron out these mistakes that Leeds have at both ends, which is of course not scoring enough goals and not keeping goals out of their own net as well, which I think have been two massive problems for Leeds, which obviously are arguably, if not unarguably, the two biggest parts of football overall. So I think if he can iron out those two issues and get this Leeds team clicking into place in that system, I think Leeds could very much be an exciting prospect between now and the end of the season. And that's just his style of play, I'll go into a little bit of his record at Watford as Watford manager, because obviously we know Watford have this hiring and firing mentality and have been, massively trigger happy with their managers over the years. And as a matter of fact, out of all the managers they've had in the Premier League era ever, Javi Gracia does boast the highest points per game ratio with 1.32 points per game averaged. And trust me, there's quite a few managers he's competing with there. I'll name out just a few of them. Quique Sanchez-Flores, Walter Mazzari, Marco Silva, Quique Sanchez-Flores again for a second stint, Nigel Pearson, Cisco Munoz, Claudio Ranieri, Roy Hodgson, and then obviously in the old days there's Eddie Boothroyd in 06-07 and Graham Taylor in 99-2000 as well. So even still, you'd say that's quite impressive given how many managers Watford have had over the years in their time in the Premier League. The Javi Gracia is the best, and to be fair, you don't even need points per game to argue that, because I think he had the longest stint of any manager. And not only that as well, he got into an FA Cup final, and to be fair, if it wasn't for the fact they played an absolute animal in prime Man City and lost, I think it was 6-0, they could have been FA Cup champions, and on another day they could have won an FA Cup. So I think it was a good achievement to get them to an FA Cup final. And yeah, finally, to answer the big question, do I think Javi Gracia will be able to save Leeds from relegation? My answer is no, and that's nothing to do with Javi Gracia, because I don't think Leeds, no matter who they would have appointed, obviously if they'd appointed a world-class manager I'd argue it, but I just think that there's not three worse teams than Leeds in the Premier League this season. We've seen even a rejuvenance in Bournemouth and Southampton last weekend, and I think with Everton, obviously getting Sean Dyche in there, I think they'll be more than safe. I think Lopetegui will probably keep Wolves up. Steve Cooper's doing a really good job with Nottingham Forest. They really seem to have clicked right now, so I just think purely on the basis of the difference in quality, I think Leeds are probably, in terms of quality and overall how much I trust their team, bottom three in the Premier League, in my personal opinion anyway. And don't get me wrong, I really do hope Leeds do stay up, because even as a Chelsea fan, Leeds are a Premier League club and they should be in the Premier League. And overall, I think the Premier League's probably a better place with massive clubs like Leeds in the league. But yeah, I've really just contradicted myself there, haven't I? But yeah, Leeds fans, based on what I've said in this video and the analysis I've provided on Javi Gracia and his style of play, are you going to give him a chance, or has your mind just already been made up that you are pretty much screwed on Javi Gracia? Or were you backing him from the start? Let me know in the comments section below, and if I've been chatting absolute shit in this video, do let me know, because obviously you'll know your club more than I do. And yeah, drop a like on the video if you did enjoy, it would be massively appreciated. And also if you could subscribe to the channel as well, that would also be hugely appreciated. We're looking to hit 2,000 subscribers on this channel as soon as we possibly can, so every single one of you that does hit that subscribe button would be helping me out massively in getting to that goal as soon as possible. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video, so yeah, chat to you later.